there's a Brawl slotted in here as well for nemutagenakuma. So that's a lot of one-ups in the list that I'm personally not a fan of, the lack of consistency, but it's just more things that DragonMan has to be aware of, right? There's going to be a lot of things playing on his mind in terms of what to play around. As for the opening hand, though, no surprises that Kuma is just going to keep the quest here. Looks like he's all cozy in his pajamas as well.
I mean, just playing infinite tournaments of different types in the same day. Like when I got that message, I didn't realize it was today that he did that. I thought, oh, it was recently, like last week or something. No, just casually trying to win 2 majors in one day in different disciplines. That's ridiculous. And good luck to him if he can get that done. That would be amazing.
Indeed. DragonMan gonna keep the Soul Rend here. I do like that option because even though this is a less aggressive version of the Pirate Warrior from Kuma, he definitely still has the potential to curve out, and that's exactly the half of his deck that he's drawn with this opening hand. The Foxtail Freebooter, not ideal to play down on curve because you're missing the Battle Cry, but of course you'd rather still get that mana spent. Make sure that you can finish Quest Stage 1 by turn 4.
Yeah, you absolutely don't have time with this deck to hold things back most of the time, especially when you're playing the slightly less piratey version. Just got to do it. And again, we're seeing it here. Does set up for the axe next turn if this is still around, but the likelihood is it won't be. And DragonMan actually just going for the Soul Rend immediately here, which feels a little early to me.
It's highly respectful of the Defias Cannoneer, which could have been procced not just by the Outrider's Axe, but also just the Stormwind Freebooter, because the text on the Cannoneer says after your hero attacks, not uses a weapon or anything like that. So DragonMan, whether he knows it or not, avoided not just the 5 damage that was on board, but the additional 4 damage from the proc of the Cannoneer by going for the Soul Rend. It does feel a little bit earlier than I would expect, I agree, but perhaps DragonMan has already laid it out in his head that he wants to go backfire on the next turn, so he doesn't want to tank any more damage in the meantime.
Yeah, and he did have the Bristleback in hand, so getting down to 10 cards, quite helpful quite quickly if you can get that healing going, put himself in a position to set up those Flesh Giants and maybe turn it all around. One advantage of this build for the Pirates, we talked about how it's not quite as hard hitting, but you do get this Outrider's Axe that you don't always get in the other versions, so it makes up a little bit of the damage in that regard. Obviously in there as damage, but also as a control card in some situations.
Yeah, helps the card draw rolling as well, but I do expect this Bulwark to be a very dead card in the hand, and the Brawl as well for the near future. So Kuma's really just looking for more of these cheap pirates. The Harbor Scamp is huge. He's just trying to turbo out Akara and get the Smite. Even with these 2 relatively dead cards in hand, there's still an avenue to victory via pressure, and DragonMan is going to do his best to stop it. The Altar of Fire into tap will get him down to the 10-card breakpoint, but he doesn't have the mana to then go for the Blood Shard on the same turn as well. So looks like it could just be Scavenger plus Shadowblade Slinger.
Yeah, that'll be enough to tide him over, and he's got the Raiders dead to activate Giants as well as the Bristlebacks in the next couple of turns. This is going to be a photo finish. I think he's going to get a lot of stuff down very rapidly here.
Indeed. The raise that on this turn would also buff the Slinger by a little bit more. I thought he would go for it so he could get the clean one-shot on the Freebooter, but looks like he would rather have his raised dead pool contain some more valuable minions, which I can respect. The 3-2 is already being blocked by the taunt to a certain extent. Nemutagenakuma has Shiver Their Timbers plus the Swing to get through the Scavenger if he likes, and then the Cargo Guard can also just keep progressing that quest. It just depends on what order he wants to go about it, because he will get the double boom boom here.
He's on the bus.
Okay, that went face, so it looks like he killed off the taunt. Or not. Okay,
Ouch.
He's gonna kill it off with the weapon. So it takes a little bit of extra face damage here, but it's not a big deal, I would say, as long as he gets that card draw.
And now we're going to see the fight back turn from DragonMan, going all the way back to that coin Soul Rend. That's enabled this turn to happen. So nice forward thinking there, and just see exactly how he plots his course here. But he's going to be in an okay spot, I think, after this turn. He can remove everything and gain some health.
Yeah, it's really clean with the double slingers on the 2 smaller minions and the bristleback on the cargo guard. He'll go all the way back up to 15, have 4 minions in the way, and one of them is a taunt and the other is lifesteal. So Kuma's lead on the board is very quickly slipping away from him. This is a chance for the Brawl to show why it's in the deck, but in terms of overall win condition, I'm not quite sure if Kuma can get enough damage together quickly enough.
So this will be the Brawl most likely. Then there's the Barov. Hasn't got any friends at the moment with the double giants coming down. He's going to need some help to be able to get rid of the Barov to clear the second board. And then there might be a third board coming behind. This looks really good for DragonMan, trying to work out which cards Kuma could possibly draw to actually set up 3 lots of clears.
Yeah. It's a nice hedge from DragonMan where he realized that behind 2 taunts, he doesn't have to be afraid of any smite outs for lethal, even if he's only at 7. And he's also developed enough minions where it's threatening enough to warrant a Brawl without having to commit a Flesh Giant. Pretty good outcome for Kuma there on the Brawl, one of the small minions surviving, which was, I guess, it was 5 minions, right? Slightly more likely. And choosing to hold back actually even on the Outrider's axe swing. I'm a bit surprised by that. I would value card draw in Kuma's position here, but maybe hoping to pair that with a Barov a bit later on.
Yeah, I think that's the case. I think that he knows that this is just the beginning of the beats, because when Handlock does start doing this, it just continues to do it for several turns in a row.
Oh, I see what he's held it for. I mean, that's Provoke obviously pairs well with the Barov, but even if he hadn't drawn that, by virtue of holding onto the Outrider's axe, it would have meant that the Fogsail Freebooter is still active this turn to shoot the Barov if need be. Now that the Provoke has entered the hand, though, Kuma has 2 alternate options he could go for as to how he wants to proc the Barov. I'm not quite sure which one is better, but the Provoke does allow him to play Sword Eater at the end of it, which is more mana efficient, so I'd be looking at that.
Yeah, he urgently needs to populate the board. He urgently needs to play some Pirates just to try and get the Juggernaut rolling. He's not going to win this by conventional means, even though it's down to 11 health for DragonMan, because the clock is ticking, and there's more where that came from. And Kuma knows it, right? There's 6 cards left in DragonMan's deck. He knows that bad things are coming his way in the next few turns, because he basically knows all the cards DragonMan has available.
Looks like he's not even gonna Barov at all if he's starting with the Foxtail Freebooter. He's just going for the Insta Rakara into Provoke, which will get rid of the Knoll and the Bristleback here. Isolating the Giant, recognizes that he's not dead quite yet to the Wind Fury here. Playing with fire. Where's the quest at for DragonMan? Oh, sorry, it's on Tamsin level, so yeah, no additional damage to be had here. And now we have entered a very close situation where if DragonMan wants to play down the Wind Fury effect, he is leaving himself vulnerable to a possible smite generation or top deck to from Kuma here. So I think for DragonMan, it's totally fine for him to like hold off on the Wind Fury. He can develop another Giant. He can play the Bloodsail Bristleback, and just try and get the lethal the next turn.
Yeah, creative play from Kuma there. I think recognizing maybe he needs to race here. He can't clear endless waves of stuff, so giving himself a chance to get lucky, realizing that the game is probably slipping away. I think I prefer that to my initial line, which is just, hey, let's just try and clear infinite boards. That doesn't end very well, does it?
Hatchet, lackluster weapon here. A chunky pirate, if a smite comes down, it still wouldn't have been lethal, but there is a bulwark to maybe survive. I haven't quite done the math yet, but this Barov, without the Provoke or the Freebooter, just does not have a way of clearing the board right now. Not seeing a great way out of this, Lorinda.
Yeah, the Bulwark's not enough, I don't think, because with the Wind Fury from the Battlemaster and the chance to drain Soul something at the end of it, although his positioning's not that conducive to it, we'll be able to get like 6 attacks in just from 3 minions to clear up the Bulwark and start doing damage with the Giant. So a lot of work needs to be done here that I don't think Kuma can probably get away with.
Yeah. It was a big decision he went for on the last turn to use both the freebooter and the provoke without the Barov, which kind of stranded the Barov because it needs one of those additional effects to actually get the death rattle for the big clear. He is going to go for the most defensive play available, which is taunt, armor, and bulwark, but like you mentioned, the Wind Fury is going to be enough to seal the game.
Strike.
Just double checking that because the positioning means he can't actually get extra attacks in because the small things aren't in the middle, but I think it's still okay.
Yeah, can shoot his own giant here to get the Wind Fury with the Cult Neophyte. Pretty creative stuff.
Yep.
Wait. Okay, sorry, I can't tell it by his reaction, but okay. It's fine. He got the lethal, but he looked angry. I just cannot read DragonMan, Lorinda.
I think it might have been because he wasn't able to use his Drained Soul, which would have been a more... It's just bad positioning, right? You've got a Drained Soul in hand, you're going to use Battlemaster next turn. You want your Neophyte there so you can Drain Soul it. Maybe you need to bristle back another minion to get even more attacks in some situations. So I think he's probably just a bit irritated when he realised how he'd positioned. That's just my take on it. Could be wrong, but that's how it looked to me.
Maybe. Well, for DragonMan's sake, I hope he slows down just a little bit because even though the position did not come back to bite him here, maybe those optimizations could be something to improve on the future. On Kuma's side, though, I do wonder if that Turbo Rokara plan was actually the best avenue to victory. I completely understand where he's coming from, though, where he created a race situation. Maybe he thought that just clearing the board without any tempo developed for himself was never going to get him the win. But DragonMan had the check for that situation, which is just more threats to follow up and enough healing to prevent a smite out from Kuma. Game 1 in the books for DragonMan, and already the warrior is starting to show a little bit of weakness. Again, we've talked about this build in particular being 1 foot in either door, not quite so consistent, and I do think that control half of the deck is not going to help in this matchup either if Kuma has queued it up against the Anaconda Druid.
Something I've talked about with the other casters, but maybe not with you, talking of 1 foot in either door. I actually like this Anaconda Glowfly setup, which these days you tend to pick one, but DragonMan and several others have just gone with the original Anaconda Glowfly. How do you feel about having half tokens and half alignment in your deck?
Yeah, I think it is a reasonable way to approach it. Like, this deck has, I think Derek put it really well, alignment as more of a tech card instead of a straight up win condition, right? You can win without the alignment if you get an early enough Anaconda because you play Germination, so you can get enough discounts that your spells will end up costing 0 even without alignment in the equation. The Jerry Rig Carpenter, also a nice inclusion to help draw Nourish, and the Moonlit Guidance, amazing in any of these slower Druid decks to get you another chance at Anaconda. I think because of that Moonlit Guidance, it's made the Claw Machine not as necessary for this deck anymore. You have more chances to find that main win condition. But as with all Druids that rely on ramp, it is a little bit weak in the early game. It does have Glowfly to maybe fight back in certain situations, but it doesn't change the fact that in the early game, up till around turn 3, they're not putting anything on board at best. And so Kuma can try and capitalize on that if he can find enough of his early game options, but he actually kept the Brawl and ends up with a control-based approach to this matchup with the cards he got back from the mulligan.
That was interesting to me. I wonder if he thinks he's so far favoured that the only way he loses is to the Glowflies. Like, that was a weird decision because I just want to hit Druids always with minions in the face as hard as I can. But he seems to have a slightly different idea in mind, and I can't work out whether he thinks he can control this or whether he just wanted that as a backup card.
Yeah, I'm unsure also. I mean, the Brawl is in there as a one-of tech card, so maybe he thought it's kind of a panic button that if you just have that, it punishes pretty much all of the big Anaconda pop-offs from DragonMan because he's not running Solo the Forest, right? The board does one big thing, and it's supposed to stick and kill them on the next turn. But if that one big thing is weak to Brawl, and they have the Brawl, that's one win condition out the window. You did bring up Glowflies, which can be a big enough board that warrants a Brawl, even without Anaconda. But the fact that Kuma also has the Rancor means that he can just play this matchup from a completely control perspective. And maybe then it requires DragonMan to, if he thinks that that's the way Kuma's going to play it, discover something big from nature studies, or just get really good 8 drops from the Cenarian wards, because there's a world where Kuma can just make DragonMan run out of gas.
So there's a Cenarian ward. Yeah, he's hovering over the lightning blooms, trying to work out, hey, turn 6, double blooms, solar, Cenarian ward. How do I feel about getting all the way to turn 6 with that as a plan? Sounds slow to me. You obviously don't want to lightning bloom into Celestial. That never ends well because you're overloaded the next turn and just end up passing twice against an aggro deck. That doesn't feel too good. Tough decision here.
It's really tough. My first instinct would be Cenarian because that's in the deck and it has synergy with a lot of things already. But he ends up taking the Nourish here, which I felt was a little bit redundant with the first Nourish in his hand. But maybe he is still just looking at this game as a possible alignment angle, because while you did say it's an aggro deck, it's an aggro deck that's been relatively slow thus far. Maybe he can just take the time to go alignment and go for an Anaconda / Cenarian ward based game plan, which is helped by the additional copy of Nourish, because he'll want to use one of them for ramp and the other for card draw.
I wonder if he knows what the kept card could possibly be. Is he going to divine that it's a brawl? You've kept a card as Pirates and not played it in 4 turns. It's a really interesting thing to do.
True, I would not have that read, honestly, but he can start to make some guesses because it's been quite some time since Kuma has done anything like impactful on the board. It's just been these small pirates so far. DragonMan takes Bog Beam here for more anti-aggro capability instead of Overgrowth, which can have some potential in a post-alignment game plan, but it does start to look like that DragonMan is not necessarily even going to go for the alignment, just ramping up naturally and hoping to draw into Anaconda sooner rather than later.
Very interesting, because he does have options open to him because of this very slow start, which are about to all be taken away. Of course, he's here. It's Smite. Mr. Smite.
If we had any more questions about alignment, they've been answered. There's Anaconda. Like, you cannot align into a Smite board, but you can certainly Anaconda, Germination, Bloom, Solar, Nourish. You don't even have to Bloom just yet, honestly. But he's going to do that for hand space. Yes.
Oh, wow. He's going to have a crazy, crazy turn. But reminder, there is no Smite in this Druid. Let me just double check that. There is no Smite in this Druid. It's been replaced by the token package. So that Brawl sitting there waiting to do some massive work on the next turn if DragonMan overcommits. And, I mean, I would overcommit here. So I suspect there's a good chance that he will too. You just do all the things you can. That's what you're programmed to do when you play this deck. Just keep playing cards and things get bigger and it ends up okay.
Wait, hold on. This order seemed to be a little bit suspicious. He went Solar and then hovered Lightning Bloom, which is definitely not the card you usually want to Solar. Thought he was going to go for the double Enriches, but he hedges to go Solar for the double Ramp instead. The rope is burning. Lunar Eclipse ×2 can happen to get rid of the Smite. Moonlit Guidance, does he have time to choose properly, let alone play the card he takes so he can get the real copy? Who knows, Lorinda? Things are happening too quickly. That's an additional scenario. That's an Arbor up. And this is a brawl to stay alive, it looks like.
Yeah, I'm just looking to see what comes up next, because basically Kuma's next turn is pass. Okay, it's brawl, but that's basically pass. 1 mana left over, not going to do anything. So has DragonMan got the follow-up? It looks like he's got the Glowflies still remaining, which is a massive deal.
But
maybe overloaded for 2?
Yeah, but there's also the Rancor. So for Kuma here, honestly, the only disaster outcome that I can see is if the Brawl leaves an Anaconda up, and even then, it's not insta-GG. Like,
sure.
There's 9 possible outcomes. 3 of them are Anacondas. We'll see. Okay, all of the Anacondas are dead. It's just the Treant, and DragonMan is cast out. I mean, okay, he has Cenarian Ward, right? But Glowfly's dead to Rancor, we can see that. DragonMan hoping it's not there. But without any further Arbor ups, this is just feeding Kuma armor. Is that going to be an Arbor up in the deck? It is an Arbor up! Oh my gosh, that is the difference maker.
But there's double Rancor. We can't play it because he's only on 7. This game's gone so fast, I thought he'd be able to play double Rancor, but obviously he can't. That's not how numbers work, Neil.
But can he survive and set up for the double rancor? We can see taunt plus cargo guard for armor here. He's going shiver into 1 rancor to gain 2 armor and set up for second rancor. He will go up to 26 armor, and there is only 24 plus hero power. 1 off lethal.
Yeah, what is it? Is Grom in the pool, right, at 8? For the
Alakir as well. Here we go. That's not it. So second rancor is going to give Kuma just tons of armor. And he picks up the Shiver Their Timber, so we can actually go Cargo Guard, Shiver, and then Rancor.
Getting loads more armor. He's going to then have to face down a 5 Glowfly Swarm. Even though he's getting a lot of armor, he is still very low on health. So it's still going to be touch and go here.
Okay, holds back on the Shiver there. It wants to develop the Taunt instead. Not sure how I feel about this, but it does, in this order, maybe give him more value out of the Boom Booms. Both one hitting the minion here. Now he swings to get rid of it. I think Kuma will have perfect information as to all the cards remaining in DragonMan's hand, unless the Glowfly was discovered. But basically, he knows that none of Druid's cards at this point are direct damage. No smite in the list, so the taunt does keep him safe, even against charge outcomes from the Cenarian Ward.
Yep, he's trying to make this work, decides that the ward is his best chance.
Ooh.
That's a good one.
This is turning into a weird stalemate, Lorinda. Kuma has 5 damage from Shiver. He has Barrow, but it's honestly not great. It's putting his own taunt within range of DragonMan's hero power. I don't know what the line is. Is it ever Tempo Mutinous? No.
He knows it's only the Mutinous. He's not going to get any minions from it, but he does have perfect information. He's got to remove an 8/8, a 7 drop, and 4 2/2s. If he can do that without taking much damage, he will win the game because of fatigue.
Correct.
It's a cargo guard to keep you alive.
Yeah. It does, for sure. I mean, just the taunt keeps him alive for sure here. But the question is, are you supposed to put damage on the 8/8 so that you can set up for a better clear on it the next turn? I just don't see the breakpoints helping very much because he does not want to face tank the remaining damage on the 8/8 here. So he is just going to put the cargo guard in the way. And now my question is, does alignment ever factor in somewhere here, making Kuma have 1 card only on a certain turn as an option so he can't go Barrow plus something?
That does make sense, yes, although it's going to be so rapid, maybe he doesn't get there. It's all about this next turn. He can barrel off everything apart from a 7 drop away and hope to be able to deal with it. That's a big pickup as well. That allows him to deal with quite a lot of stuff, or at least give himself a shot at it.
Huge. Anchorman can be used for card draw here, or the guaranteed full clear, right? He could double trade into the 8/6 and then Barov Shiver, and that would clear everything. I don't think there's any 7 drop that can survive that, but I could be wrong. He is going for that option though, and there it is. It's a big 7 drop in Nozdormu, but that is all the threats from DragonMan deleted.
Wow. And the reason I'm saying wow is because he kept the Brawl in his opener. I realise he picked up all the other removal cards as well, but that plan was part of his choice in the opening hand. He gave up a lot because by not having the Pirates on curve, that's kind of why he was in that position, but it worked out for him.
It's so interesting that these 2 very disparate halves of the Warrior deck can let you approach the matchup in 2 very different ways, and Kuma specifically chose to go for the control route here because it was a very specific build of Anaconda Druid that he was faced up against. I am willing to say that this game plan probably doesn't work against the Malago Smite version of the Druid. I think that version has too many individual threats that can happen one at a time that it makes Brawl a lot less effective. But against the specific version with Glowflies, and they want to go Anaconda, Germination all in on 1 board, and then maybe Glowfly after or before that as your half-second board, Kuma recognized that the exact control tools that he had teched in his list were perfectly aligned to deal with that, and it was good luck that he found the Rancors on top of the Brawls, but the way he pieced together all those options was very, very wise in my opinion.
Yep, and as a result of that, this Druid is still in the pool of things that needs to win a game, which is crucial because it's the deck that looks, once again, like... The weakest link makes it sound like a terrible deck. It's got fine, it can do fine, but it's the deck he would like to hang around in there the longest. So that would have been a big overturn. He'd have been 2-0 down, and that working out for him has made this very much, incredibly enough, for a Hearthstone tournament, a Hearthstone match.
Indeed, Lorinda, it is not just going to be a 3-0 sweep here. Kuma, both our players with a win on the board, and Kuma choosing to follow up with his Handlock, which is another deck that punishes alignments. That makes DragonMan's Druid once again look a little bit weak. We saw last game that he just did not have a clean spot to go for alignment. Once the smite hit the board, there was just no breathing room to have one dead turn because of Lightning Bloom giving you overload into an alignment turn. And even without Lightning Bloom in the equation, the alignment is just too scary to play against Handlock because that makes their Flesh Giants and their Gold Charnels cost nothing. And it's just a little bit too much threat on the other side unless you have the God Anaconda hand to follow it up. Not to say that the Druid doesn't have game though, because you can just get there with Glowfly boards. Sometimes they don't have the Soul Rend, but I would say it is favorable for the Handlock if DragonMan actually did decide to queue back the Druid.
Have a look at the Rogue in case that is the queued deck. It is just straightforward Garrote Rogue, which always leads to, it's one of my favourite matchups actually, this Handlock versus Garrote Rogue. I think the Garrote Rogue before the nerfs was just getting in front, and now it's just once again all up in the air when they play each other. Often comes down to play decisions, which obviously is what we like to see.
Yeah, very much so. If this sheet is to be believed, it is going to be the Druid once again for DragonMan though, so I am worried. I think that the Druid could get bullied once again, but I think DragonMan is prepared for such an outcome. His lineup definitely looks like it's geared more to bully the Demon Hunter from Kuma's side, but for now though, Kuma keeping the Neophyte makes a whole lot of sense. I did say that the Giants are in there to punish Celestial alignments, but if the Druid doesn't go for alignment, you still want to be pressuring some other way, and the Cult Neophyte is a great way of going about it. Timed well, it can deny a Glowfly Swarm or an Overgrowth.
Well, we talked at length, both in this match and other matches, about how if you do the alignment thing, you're helping the Handlock a lot of the times, but DragonMan's hand might just be forced if it doesn't develop differently very soon. It's just such a good setup to go for it. He might feel if he can do it so early, he might just choose to have a go at it and see how it works out.
I mean, this is as good of an alignment follow-up as you're going to get, maybe just lacking a Nourish in the mix or just some form of card draw, because you can say, okay, I align, you play an 8-8 and a 5-4 for free on average, let's say. And then I go play a 3-7, which becomes 3 3-7s, which become 5-8s and everything with all the Arbor ups, and that can be enough to beat the Giants on the other side. But we'll see. Still getting a bit ahead of ourselves here, because for now Kuma has this first crossroads of does he want to go backfire at the earliest possible juncture. It would get him up to 10 cards, but he could coin out a 1-drop if he likes. Just gonna weave in the tap though, which I do like the option because it still allows him to go for a Gold Charnel in a lot of instances, but he's actually also going to coin out the Cult Neophyte to deny Overgrowth this turn.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this. I think slowing down Druid's overgrowths are so important. Obviously, we can see it's not there, but that's not the point. He can't, and that's how the game works. So stopping that ramp at the cost of your coin at an opportune moment, while still hanging on to your big hand size, is key. And now he's going to get the Anetheron down, and now DragonMan, who is playing Druid, which is not known for removing minions, is going to have to do it. He can do this. He's got Solar Luna going on, but it's all going to start costing him a lot. And that Glowfly Swarm Gear gives him different options available.
Yeah, that is very timely here. We see no Soul Rend just yet for Kuma, but a lot of other removal options. The Knoll, the Slinger, the Touch of the Nathrazim allows him to clean up the vast majority of these. But the one thing I just want to see with the rest of this turn is the Anetheron going face. I have seen Anaconda Druids punish a Warlock that gets a little bit over-eager with the trading. There is a certain instance where if it's just 2 2/2s on board, or 3 even, the Arbor Up isn't as punishing, and it can be a lot lot more valuable to get that 8 damage going face so that you don't give the Druid time to put together an Anaconda comeback.
Interesting here if he wants to consider trading and then raise deading and then playing again the Neophyte, if he thinks that this is a big enough board to get things going. Plenty of other choices along those lines as well.
My first instinct would just be tap Slinger, trade Neophyte, leave 2 2/2s on the board. But raise dead for Neophyte in particular is a pretty powerful option.
Where's the card? There it is. I was getting really worried there.
Yeah, me too. That was a bit of a delay. Obviously not ideal that Kuma only gets 1 minion back from the raise dead, but this is a higher tempo option than tap because it allows him to fit in the Drain Soul as well, which gets rid of 1 further minion from DragonMan. DragonMan is going to go in with the alignment this turn. It looks like he has seen a raise dead, he has seen a Knoll, but Kuma has that Flesh Giant waiting in the wings alongside the Battle Master, which can set up a very clean 2-turn lethal. Oh wow, and a free Knoll as well.
Yeah, just to highlight, this wasn't a mistake from DragonMan, more of just an emergency. That's the hand he was dealt. He's got to do something, so just had to hope that Kuma's hand was full of absolute nothing. Unfortunately for him, it was not, but hang on.
There's a chance, even through the Neophyte aura, Anaconda will still make everything cost 0 because the spells cost, the nature spells, they'll cost 1, then 2 because of Neophyte, then back to 0 because of Anaconda. So let's see just how much he can accomplish with this turn. We are looking at Solar Cenarian War, we are looking at Moonlit Guidance, okay?
They still need to be good, but he's still going plenty of time left as well, which you don't often see, but he was smart. Get going straight away.
Not the Devourer, that thing is going to be enormous at the end of this turn, but and an Alakir! I was gonna say what DragonMan needs more than a giant minion is a taunt, right? He needs to survive versus the Battle Master, and even 35 health is not completely safe, but the taunt I think is going to seal it, at least for the upcoming turn.
And there's the second Solar.
Oh my gosh, Germination as well. He can copy the Devourer. That's disgusting. They're both gonna grow. Oh my lord.
Right, you've got
Ladies
2
and
mana.
gentlemen, Anaconda Druid.
Oh my.
Another alignment at the end.
Gotta say as well, what a clean turn that was. I don't think I've ever seen anybody get every single command off like that without a panic at the end, and that just seemed to be really nicely ordered. I'm sure there were some things in there that weren't, but that looked clean as you can get.
Absolutely. No hesitation. He knew that he had to go through like 3 dozen actions that turn and got it all done there. Obviously, the nail in the coffin was the Arcane Devourer, but even a different 8-drop, right? Just having that amount of armor and stats gained at that point in the game, there was no double Soul Rend or that kind of option from Kuma on the other side, so he was just gonna throw it down. I think it was a very laudable effort from Kuma though, held on to that second Neophyte to make this type of turn as unlikely as possible, but it's just the fact that Anaconda discounts by 2 and the Neophyte expensifies by 1 only. It's just not gonna work out in your favor. DragonMan takes another win and goes up 2-1.
Expensify. Sorry, that was ridiculous. I was sort of explaining that it wasn't a mistake. He's got to go for it. I did not expect him to have a full-on Anaconda turn. It didn't look like he had all the tools available for it. And then it just got rolling. And as soon as you get through the 3rd or 4th card draw, it's like, okay, he's got this done. Got a couple of good rolls along the way, but you have to sometimes. And that puts him down to just 1 deck. And that 1 deck is going to have to first off play against this Demon Hunter. I was going to say what the deck is. It's his own Demon Hunter, right? Or is that bad?
Yep. Yeah, we are in for a... Sorry. DragonMan's Demon Hunter got banned out of the way, so it's his Rogue left over, I believe.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I'm there
and
now.
That is a decidedly difficult matchup for the Garrote Rogue, I would say, even before the nerf to Garrote, because of the power of Glide. It makes it such that all your effort spent on playing Shrouds of Concealment and Swindle, discounting your hand with Octobot can just get shuffled back to your deck in the blink of an eye. Garrote Rogue players have definitely gotten more skilled in the matchup over the months that it's been in the meta though, in that they're not going all in on having a huge hand. They're more willing to dump cards and hoping to just thin their deck so much that by the time a glide happens, you're more likely to get back cards like Shroud of Concealment and Field Contact at the end of it. But still, I think it's really difficult to play on the rogue side, and even if you give it your best shot, a lot of the times Demon Hunter can just get to the combo before you.
Yeah, it's really interesting the little dance you do as the rogue, because you have to tiptoe around not getting rid of your card draw, but if you don't draw cards, you can't win the game. So I always find it fascinating to see how the first field contact goes. How much do you want to draw? When do you want to commit? What do you want to do with it? And sometimes you just get the idea that there is no glide for some reason or other and just go for it. So curious, and as always, about how this one will go down. It's just one of my favorite matchups again.
I agree, and the Cult Neophytes can be pretty clutch in here as well, because the Garrote Rogue can go for, you know, at least the beginning, sort of a tempo game plan. They can go for a Neophyte to maybe protect that first board from getting Immolation Aura'd, or it can protect your hand from getting glided for a turn, which can make all of the difference. DragonMan just going to hold on to the Octobot, which is no surprise whatsoever. The timing of which he plays it is also very interesting in the matchup, in my opinion, because if you get too greedy with the Octobot discounts, they can just get glided back. So I've seen a lot of people play it out and then spend the discounted cards even without a field contact in the mix just yet. But DragonMan has all of the options available to him because both of those key cards are in the opener.
Oh, no. It's the 10 damage Artificer attempt. Just nothing in the hand for Kuma, forcing him to just commit something to the board so he doesn't die while he's trying to get his quest done. It's going to take a while with one tradable and nothing else in hand.
Yeah. Secret Passage for DragonMan largely whiffs until the Swindle came in at the last possible moment. He is just going to dump the prep, I suppose. I don't think this is second. Oh, it is Second Passage. Okay. Very aggressive thinning of the deck here. Gets rid of a Brain Freeze at the end of it as well. Or a Plunderer.
Yep.
Okay. So, I mean, DragonMan is taking what we said to another level, right? Aggressive thinning of the deck. Any cards that aren't Field Contact or Shroud of Concealment or Swindle are cards that you don't necessarily want to get back from a glide situation. So that is both passages used though, so I am a little bit worried if a glide does happen here. But DragonMan can just leverage all his hopes on the field contact here. Kuma thrown a bone with all these consecutive tradables. He finally does get the first stage of the quest done and gets the sigil online for the next turn, but it's gonna have to be Spectral Sights and Glides from here because the current hand is all combo pieces.
Yeah, absolutely, and it didn't reduce because you used 3 tradables to complete the first part. Nothing useful got reduced. Okay, Fellscreen Blast is fine, but it's not what he's looking for. The only reason to really complete there is to advance towards Kurtrus because.
Ooh. Ooh. Okay, that's happening. The question is, do you commit the Fellscream as well? It is, you know, not a card you want to draw back from glide this early, and it's also removing a fair bit of pressure from this board, so I like that. Fellscream into glide, get rid of the vast majority of these discounts from DragonMan, and decidedly pull in the lead.
I hope both of these players make it to GM because they're both so emotive. I'm really enjoying watching their reactions. All right, Kuma with a pretty decent pickup there, especially considering where he started. He'll definitely take that change in fortune.
I hope they both make it to GM and we get a pajama day in GM because I'm kind of jealous of Kuma. He looks so comfy, living up to the name Sleepy Bear.
Best way, especially if you've been playing card games all night. Got to be comfortable, that's for sure. Still looks so awake though.
Wow, all the actions are happening so fast. DragonMan had Potion as an option there, but insta-picked the Spring Water, which I think is probably the better option in this position. The Potion is a bit difficult to maneuver without any more Octobot discounts in the near future. And the Spring Water, even though it's not likely to actually get more mana back, it's card draw of some form, which you need to recoup the losses you got from the Glide. Speaking of, another one has entered the fray.
Yep, this time he will probably not be so worried to get it cast. Maybe he will actually. Looks like he's just going to dump the Arcanist and Glide again.
Yeah, it's great. DragonMan has more than 4 cards. It's a net benefit.
Yep, advancing once again the quest while he's at it.
Kurtrus in hand, very little threats on the other side of the board. It's just looking very clean for Kuma here, and it's up to DragonMan to put together some type of offensive that can deny the Kurtrus as best as possible. It's not going to deny it, the double Neophytes, but maybe it's pressure that Kuma has to care about. Then again, the Neophytes are probably serving a better purpose post-Kurtrus to just delay lethal a little bit.
Yeah, he also has no card draw of his own, so if you play the Neophyte now and you don't draw into basically precisely field contact, you've wasted a Neophyte because you haven't slowed the round down on a turn where you're going to get the tempo when they pass it back to you.
Right.
So with that in mind, he's had to do nothing here, and if he whiffs on this next draw, he could be dead very soon. And weirdly, that's a whiff.
Efficient is sufficient.
Not the worst whiff.
Is it? I mean, it does let him just vomit stats on the board, and those stats are attached to the Neophyte effect, which does simultaneously make it more difficult for Kuma to get lethal and clear the board. But DragonMan is actually just holding off on the Neophytes altogether. I thought it was just going to be an all-in push on the board and say, deal with this. If you can't, then I was going to lose the game anyway.
Yeah, he could only have got one of them down, although he could have got other stuff alongside.
I bet you can do this.
It's just that, you go.
Sorry, second Arcanist being committed here. Not the biggest of deals because there's still the Guild Trader, but we've also just seen a Moarg, so Kuma is very much just leveraging the fact that Rogue cannot heal here, and he's about to push at least 7 more damage phase. Doesn't need the full breakpoints on Il'gynoth necessarily.
Yeah, and I feel like Kuma is in a really
trades!
spot. He trades!
Wow. The respect!
Or the confidence. If he feels he's just going to win really soon anyway, then why give your opponent any chance to do damage?
Too quiet.
Well, okay, but I'm not sure. I mean, like, you have 1 Moarg, 1 Guild Trader left. I guess 2 Guild Traders and Il'gynoth, but they're kind of expensive. DragonMan, honestly, in a decent position here because he held on to these Neophytes. Like, one of them can come down here and make Kuma's life very difficult in terms of clearing this board, but DragonMan is going to go Brain Freeze instead, scared of the 7 damage. For perhaps the reasons that I outlined a while ago, the breakpoints are tougher for Kuma to achieve at the moment.
So, not the stuff he was looking for there.
Gotta trade the Peddler back, and then he can draw it back from the weapon. Immolation is decent.
Yep, that's a full clear on the other side.
That's the Acro. That's a big deal. Acro into Acro, all the card draw in the world. But I don't think any more opportunity for lethal because of so little mana remaining.
But not much opportunity to die if he just clears up here either. And then the lethal on the next turn looks quite likely. I think he's just working out which pieces he needs in his hand, what he can throw away, and then he's going to clear and try and win next turn.
Yeah, a bit awkward that one of the Acrobatics auras went on the Guild Trader, and if I've counted right, I think he needs both of those for the actual lethal combo, so he couldn't play one out just to keep drawing with the Acrobatics. As long as the field contact dies this turn, whether it's through Immolation Aura or something else, then it is fine.
Okay.
Just going for the I-Beam and the Peddler so he can get the Acrobatics Aura. The order looks weird because he's damaging his own things, but he knows the board doesn't really matter from this position as long as he can prevent lethal on the other side and have enough lifesteal and spell damage effects to have a lethal of his own.
So he went for the Glide at the end there to mess things up for DragonMan, but also he's drawn no card draw of his own, although he's drawn a lot of the combo pieces.
Yeah, I think it still works out overall in Kuma's favor with the timing, just because his deck is thinner. Right, so
there's a spectral.
Both guild traders will cost 0 by this point when they return to his hand as well. So, oh, sorry.
They changed that a while ago, I think.
Oh, okay.
Look to the patches. That's how it used to work, but they did patch it at some point.
All right. So now there's not lethal yet. It's 18 damage. Go trade this back. There's the other guild trader trading with themselves.
Philosophy?
Sure. That means that he'll only need 1 guild trader to get lethal from this point.
And there's 3 cards in the deck, and 2 of them are guild traders.
There are 2 guild traders and a Viper, so literally all the tradables is what's left in Kuma's deck here. All he needs to do is not die this turn, and he should guaranteed win the game, right? Because the only whiff of a draw is the Viper, and then you just trade that, and you guaranteed get back the guild trader. And I don't think the Neophyte is enough to prevent any type of lethal happening here, because the Fell Scream is cheap enough.
Watching him just wag his finger there, it's like, don't you dare kill me, you can't kill me from here. It's really funny to watch the emotions, and here we go. About to take it to 2 games apiece.
Yes, indeed, it is going to come down to this Garrote Rogue versus the Handlock from Kuma, and that's a matchup that has existed for many, many months now in the meta, both decks taking major nerfs at some point. And honestly, so many things have changed with the mini set and the balance changes that I'm not quite sure where it lands at the end of things, because at the first iteration, it felt like Garrote Rogue was so far in the lead, but then Handlock started getting wiser with their timing of Cult Neophyte, and it seemed a lot closer, and then everything was thrown out of the window with all these new changes to Garrote, the inclusion of Altar of Fire and Handlock, and it's just become quite close in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it is close. I think if... I'm going to have 2 opinions here, so I can't be wrong. I think if it's played properly by both sides perfectly, I feel that the Rogue is slightly favoured. But also the Rogue is the one that's coping with the most changes. The Warlock's been playing against this for ages now. The Warlock's much more likely to play closer to perfect than the Rogue is, I feel, just because of how Rogue has been since the Garrote nerf, all that time ago, 3, 4, 5 days, wherever we are now. So I think in that regard, it's actually Warlock favoured, even though it shouldn't necessarily be if we look at it again in 2 or 3 weeks' time.
Interesting take, just more on the quality of play, but I'll tell you one thing, keeping field contact makes the Rogue's win percentages already rise by quite a lot. I've seen one too many iterations of this matchup on stream where the Rogue completely bricks on their card draw, and it just makes it look miserable. Kuma here, pretty interesting with the Knoll keep as well. I was thinking that he'd be looking more for the turbo card draw effects of Backfire, Tour Guide, just to get the Giants online as soon as possible, because I feel like that's generally the first level of threat that the Rogue actually cares about. The Knoll is dealing 5, yes, but it's relatively easy to kill with Brain Freeze or Prize Plunder, but the Giants really start to add up. I'm interested to see how Kuma will leverage that, but the Neophyte has entered his hand, and that's a card that you really want to save to go along with your threats later on.
Yep, one thing the Knoll does do is potentially shut down an early Octo, I guess?
True.
Kind of. I'm just looking because last time he kept something, he kept Brawl and it won him the game. So now just trying to work out why he's kept this. So Octo is my guess on this one.
Altar of Fire is the draw for Kuma, which is a low priority card in the matchup. But if there's nothing better to do with this mana, I wouldn't mind Kuma just playing it here. It's one of those cards where, like, if you hit the good stuff, you look like a genius. But if you don't hit anything relevant in DragonMan's deck, you're actually helping DragonMan's win condition.
Yeah.
So I would call the card a net neutral effect, and it's more just there to get down to cheaper Baron Scavenger territory. He's just going to rip it because of mana efficiency and hand space. Loses Swindle, Shroud, and Prize Plunder, but Kuma loses Backfire and Neophyte, which is awful. Those are cards he needs to win this matchup, I think.
Yeah, DragonMan will absolutely be delighted with how that altar worked out for him. There is a second altar in this deck. A lot of them only playing one, but Kuma does have the second one. So at some point, DragonMan's going to have to possibly go through that torture again.
Oh, DragonMan has been very lenient with his usage of the shadow steps. Like the first one used on field contact just to get more draws going on this next turn. But with both shadow steps used, that means that he is relying on Guild Trader and Ethereal Aug Merchant to both be intact. At least one copy of the Ethereal Aug Merchant to get enough for a 30 damage combo. However, there's many worlds where he doesn't actually need 30 damage because the Warlock will be taking damage in the middle here. It's just something worth noting though that there's going to be a lot less flexibility with Octobot discounts without Shadow Step in the mix.
Yeah, I think he may have felt the pressure there of not having a particularly fast hand, so decided to go field contact, just get a little bit going, decided to burn those Shadow Steps. And one of the reasons I love this deck is it's so difficult to know exactly what to do with your resources. So when someone chooses to do something a little bit slightly out of the ordinary, at least to me with this field contact, I'm always interested to see what happens next.
Well, field contact behind the Divine Shield is usually a pain for Warlock to deal with, but Kuma held on to this null, and he also has Touch of the Nathrism, so he can clear the contact and fit the Tamsin in as well if he wants to clear the Neophyte. I think it's a pretty good usage of the Tamsin. I don't think there are many spots you can truly get greedy with her in this matchup. It's just there to stem the bleeding and also acts as a pseudo-taunt while it is on the board.
Yep, still not quite sure how that null keep panned out. Obviously it was good there, but he's a card less deep in his deck because of it, so we'll still have to keep an eye on that early decision. Because obviously how it works out once matters, right?
First big set of discounts from the Octobot. It's gonna be huge, but DragonMan, again, no Shadow Steps left, so this field contact has to find the other field contact for it to be a smooth avenue to victory. And so far, it looks like enough battle cries to get that going, but can Kuma counter pressure? This series has been at a lightning fast pace. In the Raise Dead pool, there is a Neophyte, and it's not guaranteed to be gotten, which is a very big deal, but I am looking at the Raise Dead because it's gonna further cheapen this Flesh Giant, and if that can come down alongside Neophyte, that can be the big counter pressure that Kuma needs. It's just going Altar though, loses
Miss.
miss, and miss!
Yep.
No Garots lost for DragonMan.
Isn't really relevant. Losing both preps could sometimes slow you down maybe a turn, but obviously with the Octo in hand, that probably won't be an issue. And he would absolutely take those 6 cards being taken away from him during this game. Like you said earlier, if you miss as the Altar player, then you probably just helped the Rogue along its way.
The mana is so awkward for Kuma here. The nerfs to Flesh Giant hitting hard here. If he could drop Neophyte with Giant, that is the perfect storm, but he has to choose between maximum stats and disruption here. And I think I like this line of going for the stats here because playing Neophyte there, it's just not protecting enough stats that it's actually threatening lethal for Kuma back the other way. So he is just going to take the risk that he's not dead this turn. And I don't think he can be, even with all of these discounts, because the Garots are still in the deck and are going to cost full. But I have been wrong on this many times before, so let's see what DragonMan's going to go for.
Yeah, see how DragonMan can keep himself alive as well. These are actually quite difficult to deal with. We've seen at least one brain freeze that I can remember.
True.
So he has actually got to kill off sort of 2 of these minions here.
And he lost the Prize Plunderer, but yeah, only one Garot can be played maximum because this is the last discount he's ever going to get. No more Shadow Steps in the mix, right? And
Brain freeze.
Yeah, that's a big deal for staying alive.
He needed that Geo. I think he was in a world of trouble without it.
Completely agree. And now he's just kind of set himself up in a position where he has the lethal on the following turn, right? Because the very last card in his deck is the Cutlass, if I'm not mistaken. And that will allow him to draw all the bleeds after he shuffles them in, even if the field contact leaves the board. And so Kuma's only out in this situation is to have lethal of his own, but the Brain Freeze shut that off, just like you pointed out. There is Neophyte ×2 to be aware of here. So double Neophytes and the Bristleback on the field contact and probably just trade everything to be completely safe. I think that can keep Kuma alive.
Get him up to 28. The weapon's going to need to be tradable.
Yeah. Right, so now the Garots cost 3 and 4. And that's 8 mana, and you cannot afford to play the Guild Trader on top of all of that. But can you get away with only playing double Ethereal Augmerchant there? That would make for 24 damage. It's a little bit short, especially with this taunt in the way. However, there's also a Fireball.
Yeah.
Wait, I don't think it's there, Lurin. I think the mana's just not there, but I could be wrong.
It's not there, I don't think so. With that in mind, is there any way DragonMan can wheedle this around to remove enough damage and still do some damage so his natural draws win him the game?
Maybe. I mean, I think he has to remove things. I think he has to Fireball like the 6/6 and trade into Giant and use the Pen Flinger. Yeah, something like this. Just stay alive on the other side. Kuma's already feeling happy just at the fact that he's not getting garroted here, but he's not out of the woods, right? He's not threatening his own lethal in this situation.
He's not, and he has no heal in hand, no taunt in hand. He does have the heal on the board.
He does have Wind Fury, so this is 15 damage that I can see.
Yep. No, oh, he can do a little more. He can do 18 if he kills his own minion.
There's no mana, though.
There's no mana. He's one short for that.
Oh, but the proc of the quest?
Okay.
Wait, it's a little bit short. It's too off. I thought, I mean, the speed he went for, I think he thought he had it, but it's too off here. And now, he's just dead. The one fatigue from DragonMan is not enough to kill him here. And now Guild Trader, Ethereal Augmerchant, Garrot, trade the Blackwater Cutlass is the exact 30 damage lethal.
Oh my goodness. That's insane. Kuma thought he had it. He's absolutely gutted. Whatever he calculated just seems to have been slightly off. Oh no.
That was so close on either side. It just got so back and forth in those last few turns. I thought Kuma had it, then I thought DragonMan had it, but there was Neophytes, and then I thought Kuma had it again, but the Wind Fury was not enough to threaten counter lethal, and then DragonMan with the very level-headed approach of seeing that he had to remove enough threats to stay alive on board and still maintain enough spell damage for the lethal on the following turn. Very, very clean play, even at that lightning fast pace. Just congratulations to DragonMan. That was so well done.
He does seem to think incredibly quickly. I know the Druid thing can be practiced, but we saw how many actions he got through in that Druid deck. He seemed very well prepared. And then the Rogue thing, I mean, when do you ever have to fireball at the end on your last card as a rogue, fireball a minion to make sure you win the game? That's just not a thing you train for. That's something you have to work out in the heat of the action. Well played, DragonMan. Big commiserations to Kuma. He's obviously a very talented player from what we've seen. Makes some decisions we haven't seen before, but I'm not going to be one to say they're wrong or right. They just were different, keeping the null, keeping the brawl, those things. He looks also incredibly talented. I expect to see a lot more of him in the future too.
Absolutely. Looking gutted there for Kuma, because if his Twitter is to be believed, that was his win and in match into APAC Grandmasters, and now he misses out on those points. But I do believe we will be hearing more from Kuma. That was his first Masters Tour appearance only, and already making it to a top 8 is very impressive stuff. But right now, all the focus is on DragonMan from Hong Kong, representing APAC through to the top 4 against many titans of the scene. Look at this, Lorenda. We have Shouty, Tianming, Gruzin, and DragonMan. Such exciting competition for our last 3 matches of the day.
And is it going to happen, Gia? Are you going to get an APAC player to break